Welcome, Damo.
Hello, nice to see you.
Likewise, Jim and Rabsy.
Hello, mate.
You'd like me to start here, don't you, on a Monday with the positives?
Yes, of
and
course.
you've coerced me into being positive for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
We're going negative off the
Negative.
top.
Oh, Damo, old negative guts. What's
Now,
wrong?
there's more stories than negatives, Bill. There always has been
What
in
do
that
you
old...
got?
Well, the Collingwood situation is now very, very serious from a can they even make finals perspective. And then if you go toward Saturday afternoon, Bill, the twilight fixture against Hawthorn, that match will determine the fate of certainly Collingwood
What
from
about
a
that
finals
game?
perspective. It's huge, isn't
Hawthorn,
it?
Collingwood, MCG 435. There'll be 80,000 there.
I reckon it will be.
80,000.
Yeah, and Hawthorn, as they did with the Dusty Martin 300th game for Richmond about 4 weeks ago, they will embrace this, and they already are starting to publicly talk it right up. And I love what Sam Mitchell's done in that space. They're obviously at the 0-5 start. They've then since won 9 of 12, but they are responding every time they have a loss on the run, and they're soaking up these moments in match, and they're soaking up the build-up to bigger games. And they've now got one, and they've craved, a spot on the fixture.
They've deserved it.
The Saturday twilight spot now is Bill.
Mate, he could be coach of the year, Sam Mitchell.
He's got to make the
Gets them into
finals
the
to
finals
do that. Yeah.
After they were 0-5.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Magnificent.
I think that is it. Look, we'll touch on them in the positives, Bill, but just back onto the negative component to this conversation. The 8 wins that Collingwood have got, and while they've got 36 premiership points, there's 2 draws amongst that amongst that scoreline. So there's 7 losses in it, and even the 3 losses they've now had in a row, Jim. So Geelong most recently, Friday night, Essendon prior to that, Gold Coast prior to that. They're the 3 losses. But the week before that, they were 54 points down against North Melbourne.
Yeah,
that was the one they ended up winning by 1 point. So that's a 4-week patch of form, which is genuinely worrying. I just look at them now as the team that doesn't have the status as reigning premier. They're just a team with 8 wins, 2 draws and 7 losses. And as such, I don't look at them as having this superpower to work
They've
them
had a bad
way up.
run.
They have.
With injuries.
Yeah, and partially you could look at it, they've done well to hang in.
Concussions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
but,
have.
But equally, they've fallen away in the past 3 weeks, maybe even a month if you throw that North Melbourne game on at the start of it. And massive game on Saturday. We're going to know by the end of round 19 as to whether they're going to be at least even back in the September action. So, another negative too. And it's a similar storyline for what I'm talking about there. Essendon, they are now 2 wins, 4 losses only from their past 6 matches. Now, they still look okay from a ladder position, Bill, but the losses have come to Melbourne, Geelong, Carlton and Gold Coast inside that 6-week patch. The most recent one Saturday night against Melbourne, and then the wins. One was against Collingwood, which we thought of at the time as being a good thing, but in the end they were out of the 8 in the same round. And West Coast, so they're the only 2 wins they've had in the past 6 weeks, and their forward line is a mess. Peter Wright just hasn't come back from that. From that suspension he copped at the start of the year. We know last year he had a shoulder problem that kept him out for half his season. This year he was suspended for 4 weeks. I think it was the first game, wasn't it? Or the very early part of the season. And he just hasn't looked right since in terms of being confident in going for marks. And obviously they've now got issues with do they play Goldstein or not? Draper's still working his way back from injury. And their midfield was down against the rejuvenated Melbourne team on the weekend.
And they play Friday night against the Crows.
Percentage of 98.
Yeah.
That's the hard bit to fathom.
They've got enough wins on the board to still make it work, but we know what happened last year, and it is a spectre over their collective heads when it comes to what happens between now and close of play on 2024. Port Adelaide had a chance to consolidate a top 4 spot, but was disappointing, it must be said. And there's some behavioural issues pertaining to Jason Horne-Francis that Kenny Hinkley's had to work with, and that's part of the package you get with Jason Horne-Francis. But
that's what you bought.
That's
buyer beware.
Yeah, and they're well aware of that. And you take the good with the bad, but when the bad contributes to a couple of bad free kicks and a 50-metre penalty and a lack of performance in a game that just had to be won against Gold Coast, that it is an issue. And then you sort of then take that angle and argument and even conversation, Jim, down the line. Who is the leader of the club? We know Connor Rosie is a captain. He's a young captain. He's not much older than Jason Horne-Francis. And he has had a season where injury has curtailed his absolute optimum output. So, yeah, they've got a few problems. And again, finished the round outside of the 8. So they're a massive issue. And Carlton, I'm not yet sure. 2 weeks in a row now, lost to GWS last week and Western Bulldogs on the weekend. 12 points, 14 points
Should have won both.
I think you can mount that case. Yeah. But equally, they were not good enough to win, and the fact that they've now lost 2 in a row, and again not able to absolutely lock down a top 4 spot, which those 2 matches gave them the chance to do. So, look, one point of argument is if Charlie Curnow converts a
3-7
3-7 into a 6-4, maybe they win the game. But equally, that would have also, I think, papered over some of their issues they've got. So just to watch this space on St Kilda, we don't talk about them a lot, but when you get to this stage of a season, and again, they've only finished with 5 goals as they did against the Adelaide Crows, and only 2 goals after quarter time of that game, they're a mess. They are a complete mess. Richmond,
No phone.
the supporters have dropped off, Bill.
Who?
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't
What
it?
happened
19,000 people.
19,000 against GWS yesterday.
Yesterday at the MCG, here it is, 19,040.
Yeah.
What's happened there?
And it's not the first game this year where they have failed to turn up the Richmond supporters. So they've clearly made their minds up on where this rebuild is at under Adam Muse in his first season. And there's a lifeless element to the entire club at the moment. 2 wins, 15 losses to this point of the season.
You don't get a check having 19,000 there, Jim, would you?
I would not have thought so.
Wow.
No, I can't. I
They
couldn't
get a
believe
lot
that.
of checks, Richmond. You would have thought it from the
over the
MCG.
journey, they would have. Yeah.
So maybe they might have to pay some.
I hadn't thought of that aspect of it, Bill. I might look into what that may have cost them.
Sliding doors.
So
What's that got to do with it?
That's what Damo writes every Friday on the
right,
AFL
yes.
website.
Sucked in,
I'm
Jim.
thinking to myself, how does sliding doors actually equate to anything to do with
Well,
that
he does
sentence?
this sliding doors thing,
Right.
which I still don't.
very well read column, Bill.
It is very well read column.
Yeah, massive, hundreds of
it
thousands.
is.
Yep.
And just to, I suppose, collectively look at some other negatives. North Melbourne, a bit of a reality check from a match against Sydney Swans.
It always looked ugly to me, that game.
Yeah.
Sydney, very good side. In Sydney, even better. And, that'll be an interesting review. They were never in the game after quarter time.
No, they weren't. Fremantle, similar to Port Adelaide, had a chance to book at least continue their surge to top 4. Lost to Hawthorn and weren't able to match the Hawks. We'll touch on them in the positives in a moment. Bill on the other side of the break and West Coast, they were okay against Brisbane Lions.
They were
but
good.
Again, they lost a game
Yeah, I
of footy.
know, but they were good.
All right, Purple, we've got the positives coming up.
Yeah.
I hope you're going to put GWS's digital department in there because they are world class.
We can go there if you
That
want
is
to.
properly
Yes.
hilarious.
You
what
can
they
do
did
the
during the
first
week.
one.
And I'm sorry, I'm a Tom Harley fan, but you've
on,
got to
Tom.
not take yourself that seriously.
Might have-
It was just funny. And every now and then you're allowed to be funny in our game.
I thought you were, but
You're not?
the Swans can take things seriously at times.
But you're
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, I am.
Jim
Hugely
said
funny.
Very hugely funny. More
Damian-
after this.
Where are we starting, Jim? Number one
Well,
positive.
We've already covered that, Bill.
Oh.
The GWS.
Did you
digital
like it,
department.
Damo?
We discussed it before the break, Bill.
Were you listening?
No, I had to talk to.
Oh, did you?
Did you?
Right, where are we going, Purple?
I think we go with Melbourne. I thought they were the one major positive out of the weekend, given that they weren't expected to beat Essendon. They didn't have Max Gawn. We knew they didn't have Petrarca. They got a lot out of their younger players. I love the game of Rivers in the middle. I love the game, and it's a continuation of his first season of football, Bill, with Caleb Windsor.
Yes.
I love Cozzy Pickett stepping
Cozzy
up in the
Pickett.
middle again. I'm liking Disco Roach down and Disco
Oh, how
Turner
good is
down
he?
the
Disco Turner.
down in the forward line.
Yeah, yeah.
Disco Roach.
Yeah, he's got some presence, doesn't
No,
he?
he has.
And while there's going to be better players, I think over the journey, he's just provided them with something. So
Yep.
they've just been able to breathe some life back into a season which has had its challenges regularly. Whatever you want to say about Simon Goodwin, and we've all had comments on him. He just keeps trying something, doesn't he?
I like
and,
it.
And not taking a ruckman to replace Gawn into that match and the question marks around that. Had it gone the other way, Bill, had they lost
he
it,
would have copped
he
it.
would have copped it so badly. And he almost knew that and just rolled the dice and got away with it. So what on him?
You know, all those blokes you mentioned pretty much have lived with my brother.
Yeah.
It's astounding. All
Yes.
of them. Judd McVee's the other one who is
Oh, he was
quality,
great.
Very
Yeah.
high
And
quality.
he got
Judd
high
McVee.
votes in the coaches' votes that have just been released in
Good
the past hour or so.
conditions for him.
Tholstrup, is he one of your brothers?
No, because they've hung it up. I think Deb's finally had
She's
enough
had
of
enough
having
of cooking.
kids
And
eating
big
them out of
meals
house
and-
and home, but they're all rippers.
Yeah.
And Rivers was there for a couple of years actually with Mark,
Was he?
and he's a ripper kid.
And
I love him.
The necessity element to those selections that are happening because of the injury,
Yep.
it's working for them. So it just goes to
No,
show
I'm
there
with
can
you.
be talent on a list if you just give them a chance.
What happens to the Gold Coast Suns when they play at home?
Yeah.
Well, they look
Well, they
like
just
they're
win.
22 different
Well,
players.
Daisy's got a good little thing about this. He says they're 4 goals better up there
Yeah, they are.
and 4 goals worse away.
Daisy says it,
Yeah,
does he? Yeah.
Because
So,
it gets all
yeah.
dewy. The ball gets all slippery and
Right.
dewy up there.
Yep.
And Gold Coast Suns players are very good with it,
Yep.
and they know how to handle the ball.
4 goals.
Yeah.
4 goals
So it's 4
either way.
goals. So it's 8 goals difference.
Difference.
Yeah, like an 8-point game. That's it.
No,
Yeah.
nothing like that. That's 4 goals up there and 4 goals less down
They're
here.
Amazing. What about Toby Green?
Yeah.
Tube.
You judge him harshly, don't we? And he hasn't had.
Do we? You do.
He hasn't had a best year by his standards, Bill. But he had a great game yesterday. The 4 goals that he kicked for the Giants against Richmond.
He's just good to watch.
He's box office. Isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got, if they're on, you watch.
Yep.
It's
Exactly.
taken a while to get going, though, in all honesty. I know he still has had some good moments, but it has taken him a while to get going. But equally, his team has taken a while to get going. And yeah, they were pushed by Richmond to a point yesterday, but they were always going to win, and they always had that game in control. So, they're still a well and truly alive, Bill, for a potential top 4
Did you see the
spot there.
Hawks Dockers game, or did you listen to it on Triple M?
I didn't listen to it, but I heard a lot of good feedback to it. And are you going to play some of that later on in the
Yes,
show?
we
I
are.
think,
We'll
I heard that was the plan.
Three-quarter
So,
time, I said, I think Hawthorn can win this.
did you?
They're 9 points down at that point.
Well, let's go there with the positives, because I was going to go the Bulldogs. We may as well stick with Hawthorn. Loved what James Sicily has done as a captain of that footy club. The fact that he wasn't playing well, as you would have called Bill on the weekend.
He said himself he was a liability, and he was till half-time. And great move by Sam Mitchell.
Great suggestion by him to go to the coach and say, can I move?
Yeah.
And then equally, and probably more importantly, Sam having the faith for him to go down there and to kick the 3 goals. So they've got more wins than Collingwood. And just to absorb that, it's staggering, because they've got the same premiership points, Bill. Both got 36, but Hawthorn have got 9 wins, and Hawthorn's got 8 wins and 2 draws. So just to line that up with the 0-5 start to the year they had, they've won 9 of 12 since.
Wow.
They've been great.
Really
They
good.
have.
Yep.
And Meek was good, I thought. He got 3. I gave him 3 votes.
Yeah,
on
he
the
was
weekend.
good. He was
and
good.
Luke Jackson too, the 2 ruckmen. I
Yeah,
gave him the vote.
played against each other. Now, Marcus Bontempelli, purple, surely 24 is the year he wins a Brownlow.
Well, I don't believe you'll get votes on the weekend just gone, Jim.
Didn't see that game, but
Yeah,
I'm just saying
they were-
this year surely is his year.
Well, I'd like to hope he does. He's twice come runner-up, as we know, and on top of that, there's been 3 other top 10 finishes for him in the Brownlow. I don't think he's going to get past Jamar Ugle-Hagan on the weekend.
no,
the
he
4
probably
goals
not.
that he kicked,
Probably
and if
not.
it's not Jamar Ugle-Hagan, it may be Riley West, it may be Bailey Dale. They
Bailey
were
Dale.
really good. Yeah, they were all really good.
Oh.
And the spark with which Waitman plays and provides that team. So that win by the Bulldogs against Carlton, that's given them a genuine belief.
No Norton, no Liam Jones,
Yeah.
and no Treloar pulled out before.
Trelaw
the
was a
game.
late withdrawal.
That's a big win.
Yeah.
It is.
And
Play
how
the
they
Cats Saturday night.
How they re-engage with Norton now that Jamar Ugle-Hagan, I believe, has had his best game for the Bulldogs without him on the weekend. And most of that came in the latter part of the game, but it was a match-winning performance. Geelong, it is a while ago now when we spoke about it on the Saturday Rub and spoke to Big Jez Cameron about it, but their win against Collingwood, it was as good a performance as they've had all year. Again, question marks on the opponent on the night in question.
I don't
but
reckon it was.
which
I thought
which game was better?
They were good early,
Maybe.
and then they made some mistakes for about a quarter and a half. I
Yeah.
thought they dropped marks and they fumbled and
They
stuffed
stuck
around.
to their plan, though.
and then good in the last quarter, yes.
Yeah, they seized the way.
Yeah.
What they did do was not deviate off the plan to just keep the ball away from Collingwood. I know that sounds really simple, but it was a concerted effort.
marks.
And Chris Scott did even he can be guarded at times, Chris, when he speaks into a microphone, but just said there's a way to beat Collingwood. It was I'm paraphrasing a wider conversation, but they were adamant there was one way to do it, and they did it right to the very end, didn't
And
they?
Max Holmes, he wins
Yeah.
the best and fairest. He's been outstanding.
Was it Jeremy Cameron who confirmed
said
that he
that, yeah.
was going to be the best? Yeah. Look, Dangerfield, I felt was best on ground for Geelong on that occasion, Bill. But again, if it's just subjective, and other people would have felt Holmes was. And
Myers
I
was
think
good.
Dangerfield got the coaches' votes out of it. I think he got 9, that they've
Yes, he
released
did.
today. Yeah, so equal second on the ladder
He's
to
going
this
all right,
point.
Paddy.
They are
He
going
wants
really
2
well.
years. Wants 2 years, Paddy. Would you
more.
give him 2 years?
Give him 1.
Yeah, one
Yeah.
at a time, mate.
Yeah.
You can have one for another 3 years.
But he's been back, I think, 4 weeks, Jim. I feel the last 3 weeks, which are the 3 wins that Cats have had to really re-kickstart their
doubt.
season, he's been important in all those wins. And I thought he was explosively brilliant on the weekend,
what he-
regularly.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was.
We touched on GWS there. Sydney Swans, we touched on them when we spoke about North Melbourne, but Heaney comes out. What a bonus to have Mills coming in for the first time in the season in round 18 in a game that's won by 80-plus points. And equally, Luke Parker getting a late call-up for that game, kicking 2 goals, just reminding everyone that he's still a very, very important player. And we've been critical regularly of Adelaide Crows. Just to sign off on the positives, they had a good win against the St Kilda club, which is easier to do this year than other years. But I think the storyline out of that was Riley Thilthorpe, the sub for the game. but
Philthorpe.
coming on late in the piece, kicking 2 goals.
And Jack Buckley not going to the Olympics.
Why would he be going to the Olympics, Bill?
Well, his girlfriend's
Girlfriend's
running.
a hurdler.
Hurdler?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to head.
Well,
He won't miss a game.
You can ask the
He might
question.
head over there.
He might be. Is it the chance he can go across to watch? I think the heat of her event, which is the 110 metre hurdles.
Yep.
Hurdles, yeah.
Yep.
What's her name, please, Bill?
Yeah, Bill, what is it?
Celeste.
Yeah, surname.
Celeste the hurdler.
Surname.
Surname?
Mookie. Mookie. It's Mookie.
If you're going to introduce it, at least get all the details
Yeah.
right before you
Just
go
trying
there.
to find her in the
He looks at you and he's like,
Mookie? Mookie?
Have you
Celeste.
ever had an idea yourself without reading it a minute before you
Yeah.
talk?
No, I'm just having a look at it now.
Yeah.
Buckley, 26. Good-looking bloke. Oh,
Yeah, very good looking bloke. I'll tell you what we can also place in the negatives, Purple.
Yeah.
This polar blast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, seriously.
You don't like cold.
No, I don't.
No, you
I
never
don't
have.
operate in the cold at all. And
You never
it
have.
is freezing
Well, it's
outside. Look at
winter.
this.
It is
Oh,
exactly.
It's polar blast.
It's a good
Today,
point, Bill.
the
It is.
July's 15 or 6/15 is the middle of winter.
This is the second polar blast we've had, and it
spot-
can bugger off.
Spot bang in the middle of winter. We are
bang.
right
Spot
now.
bang.
We are. It's 3 months and we're gone a month and a half, haven't we?
I think you're
Bugger
right.
off.
Well done, Fat. Chicken wing tackles.
Yes.
We'll talk about them next week.
There'll be a couple of issues that the match review may
a hook.
even have by the time your show
Teasing it for a week.
is off. But Toby Bedford's got a tackle issue against Taranto, and
You've
Charlie
got a
Cameron's got
tackle
one
issue.
on.
You've
One
had
on
that for a
Duggan.
while.
Purple. He's in career worst. I say it regularly. He's in the worst form of his career.
And I try and defend him on and off air.
No, you
Did I
can't.
see
I'm
you
going to
on-
abandon that.
I saw you on TV before.
You go with the Bills and have the
Go on,
dump button
Bill.
ready, Ref.